Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Welcome.
everybody.
We're going through all sorts of different conversations backstage, which a lot of polarities there.
Yeah, a lot of mismatched subjects, I think.
Right? Yeah. Hi, Debbie. Three shifting veils. Barbara, White Dragon, Hypnicity. Annie Bear. Hello, Hypnicity. Barbara.
Hi, Jenny, Jen
Yeah.
Marie.
Jen. Anyway, everybody, welcome. So today we're talking about the tipping point.
Right.
And which is a lot of people talk about it and how when the light gets stronger and stronger and we become more interconnected, then we move into that. I guess you'd call it 5D, wouldn't you? That interconnectedness, that
Yeah,
awareness.
when you're gonna, oh, you can probably still stay here in the 3D, I guess. I mean, I would not know why you would want to. You will feel like you weigh 3,000 pounds instead of whatever you weigh. Um, the way we came up with today's show topic is I was sitting at home on a Saturday night doing what I do. No, it was maybe Friday night, but I was looking for stuff for Terry and I to talk about. And I was thinking about a lot of something I'm very happy to see happening. I'm very happy to see all the readers and all the groups um, coming together and randomly having meditations. And, I know Pam Gregory had a woman, well, she started it a while ago, and she has a time that she sort of points out, be there just within yourself on your own discipline, no Zoom meeting, nobody seeing your face, no StreamYard thing, just take a few minutes and really ground yourself into peace and security. And I know in this time, if you watch a lot of news, and they're doing more and more to try and mess our energy up, you can see it. And so, and uh, Pam Gregory had on a woman named Ann Tucker, who apparently has been speaking to angels for a long time.
Yeah.
And Ann Tucker started discussing a subject that I sat up bolt upright and I went, shit, this is taking me back to the fifth grade. um, when I was in the fifth grade, my parents sent me routinely to Sunday school every Sunday. And being a fifth grader, I had no choice. It was 2 blocks from my house. We walked there. There was no hamburger places or things to go to in between. So I would go, and it was better, I guess, than sitting at home alone. Maybe not. But anyway, um, uh, I she talked about in her thing, she was talking about how the angels were telling her that it is time for the 144,000 points of light that are planted on the earth to become more and more accepted and for the concept to be understood. Now, if you went to a traditional Christian church, and even if you went to a Bible thumping Christian church or the Mormon church, I guess the Mormons are hot on this topic. The 144,000 in the book of Revelations is there's 144,000 people that in all the span of time that God has put people on this earth, there's 144,000 souls that are going to get a seal on their forehead, and it's like your bus pass into heaven. And I remember this teacher getting up there and explaining this, and it's a very Calvinist. Calvin's one of the founders of the Presbyterian Church, very Calvinist point of view. And being me, and never having been mindful of the fact that adults are much bigger than you, no adults ever struck at me. So I guess that's why I kept opening my mouth. I said, are you telling me that we live under the grace, if you want to put that in big quotes, of a God who's picked out 144,000 souls and they're going to make it through, and all the rest of us have to go through all this crap? And for what? And I was sent home with a note that I didn't need to come back to Sunday school for a while. Can't imagine why. My parents were kind of used to those notes, but and they asked me what I said, and there's 144,000 is all over the place. Of course, the first place I heard of it was in the Bible, and then she started talking about it, and so I just thought, well, hold that thought, because things don't pop up from my youth that quickly. And 2 days later, I came across a thing I sent to Teri that had been on YouTube that was off Facebook. And I don't know if that woman was talking to AI or if it was some guy she had set up to give her the answers. But she was asking about the 144,000. And the point of view she was getting was it was not just Christian thought, that there are 144,000 points of light and they can be anywhere. And I had heard this over years, and I've actually met people who have kind of convinced me that's what's going to happen. And the other thing that Ann Tucker talked about was the two streaks of light that were going to come, and everyone was going to know it's here. And this is what she says is happening soon. And I kind of related that to a lot of the stuff I heard people talking about 3 days of darkness.
Yeah.
Now, if you run a YouTube channel, 3 days of the internet not being up might be vacation. But, anyway, she talked about that, and that struck me. And I went, okay, guys that talk to me from the other side. What do we need to know? What do I need to know about this? And they said, you and Teri are going to do a show on this. So I sent it to Teri and I said, do you want to talk about this? And yeah. And so I'm not going to be like my Sunday school teacher who thought he knew who was getting into heaven and who wasn't, and had condemned me to not get there. But it's going to be real interesting. It is kind of like when George Sr. talked about being 1,000 points of light. And the theory is, and she said it and they said it, and then I saw a couple of other people that I think are have a more spiritual plane. We are creating that reality now. And that's why the darkness is fighting back so hard. So hard. And I know that I have had a couple of I have a friend I will not be able to call for a few weeks because I told him I'm not engaging in commercial news. I'm not engaging in media. And I used to live in the media. I mean, I worked in the media, guys. I lived in that world. And I'm not going to do it now because I don't know who's running it, but I think it's a bunch of drunken monkeys somewhere in New York City.
It is. I'm getting some feedback, and Gray's saying there's a really loud, rapid clicking in the background that's very distracting.
Is that what you heard?
Yeah. Is that what you heard?
It was me.
I can hear that. Okay.
It was me and my nervous twitch.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Indigo Child. Okay. His name is Jeff, and you can find him at ripecolor.com. And he is the person who has set up there's 39 readings in the thing, along with questions, along with a bit of a workbook, not a workbook, but a place to write down so you don't have to go find your own piece of paper. It's up. I was hoping to have the link for his Etsy shop, but it is so frigging long. There is no way you could copy it down. So I told him this morning, get it up on ripecolor.com.
Yeah.
And the reason he has a company called Ripe Color is because he used to be a silk dyeing artist. I mean, not dyeing on the silk, but dyeing it to colors. And that's his old name, and he didn't want to establish a new one. He's the one I read with every week if you watch my Friday weekly wanderings. And And I'm going to be doing a show with him this week, showing people how to use it sometime.
Yeah.
And the darkness, don't let the darkness get on your last nerve. You light your candle so bright you drive that little booger out of your house. I mean, that's where I am with it. Like I said, the friend that I talked to, and he accused me of being an ostrich, putting my head in the sand. I can't believe you were always so involved. How can you just walk away from us at this time that we need you? And I said, being out here holding up every torch I can is better. I said, it's my head, it's my sand. I'm the ostrich. I decide where it goes. You don't. And since then he sent me several things that they're not evil, they're just news clips I don't need to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot going on the planet, you guys. And I agree. I feel like sometimes the most important thing we can do is to shine our light wherever we are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a huge difference in your part of the world, or no time or space. So wherever you are.
And
There's
I live in Texas. I have a big black, when I go outside my door, I have to put my torch out there just to get through the whatever.
Yeah, and I'm in Missouri, and I am 10 blocks from the Kansas state line, so go there. Yeah, Debbie says she wouldn't have known. Her friend was talking about this. Her church knew something about it. It's also in the tribes of Israel, and also in the Vedas. The
Oh, and trust me,
144,000.
there are whack jobs. I Mormons, there were a bunch of Mormons that I met on my way from here to there. People I'm most suspicious of, people can stand up and sing hymns and they don't need the hymnal. Don't go near them. It's my life experience. And I agree. Kind, lovely souls are being sacrificed. Lives are being sacrificed every day. Mine could be one. I mean, I do not live in a world of wealth, guys. My Social Security check goes. And so, and I don't think and I understand. I lived through Reagan. I lived through all of it. And, I've seen it and I've watched it. I lived through Reagan firing all the air traffic controllers when I worked for an airline. That was lots of fun. So I can tell you, I've been there. I understand. And I used to tie into that fear. I used to come home and curl up into a little knot. And the only thing that kept me going was I had to get up and take care of 2 kids. And now they've made it to 50 and 48. And, it's what I'm going to tell you, you're going to hear more and more and more about this. And you're going to hear more and more of the trash talk behind it. That, if you're not on the train, you're left behind. And there's not a train. I can't give you a ticket. Teri can't give you a ticket. You have to go accept that ticket. You have to do, and I do believe there's a lot of, I don't understand what shadow work is, because apparently all the things I never got smushed, beaten up for, put in the corner for and stuff, I had adults who protected me. So I never had massive abuse. I married someone that was enough, but anyway. And so that's why I'm so glad Jeffrey did this book, because in helping him work on it, and he did this book in the last week because he's done shadow work with people through an energy thing he did, and he took that path and made it. Use the violet flame. If you can get to my website, Crystal Directions, go up in resources. The violet flame is there. It's a great thing to use. But I can't get panicked. I have to drink my hibiscus tea to keep my blood pressure down. I don't take big pharma. I just kind of wander through the world and try to shine my light. And what I am is I'm open to, like, all of a sudden I had 5 things show up in my field of vision, said, you got to talk about the 144,000.
Yeah. Hey, Gray. By the way, the Bush remark about the 1,000 points of light was about something very other than else, not very light. Oh,
No, his thing was people out doing what he viewed as good stuff. And for the most part, the ones I knew who got the little awards for doing it, they were doing good stuff.
yeah. That's awesome. It's interesting, isn't it? And you were talking about the people that knew the hymnals, and I've got learning disabilities. I never knew all the words to the songs, but I was like one of those SNL things that that guy Will and his other friend
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
always behind everybody else. That was me. I would just move my lips at church and pretend like I knew what I was singing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the universe put all of us here. And even the ones, and there are some out there that are truly miscreants. Trust
yeah,
me. But there, people used to say, why don't you do more reading on politics? When you read on politics, it's so plain. Because I can't get near that energy anymore. I'm vibrating on a level that when I get near their energy, it brings me back down. And I don't, I mean, it's like stress eating.
yeah, yeah. Liza brings up, and the problem isn't just the news. We just don't want people that we know are bad or wrecking good things in sacred earth, and good people are suffering. We don't like being troubled. It's
Well, Lisa, where do you live? They've been doing this for years. I mean, the attacks they're putting on us, they've been doing that for years. And I guess the one things I kind of have a problem with right now is um, a lot of the people saying, why aren't the Democrats doing more? They're letting it play out, and that's the hardest thing to do.
yeah,
It's the hardest thing to do. And if you've had a child that was really in trouble, fortunately, none of mine fell into this. But if you had a friend who was into drugs or alcohol and stuff, there gets a point where you can't say anything else. You just have to let them play it out. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do. And and if you, okay, to give you guys a little bit of hope from someone who still is out in the real world and watching all this stuff, my oldest child, Sean's back on his YouTube channel, CLSB, Charles Lawrence Sean Briscoe. That's his whole name. I gave it to him. I remember. Politics, CLSB Politics on YouTube. He did a really brilliant show on why we will not have a budget in the middle of March. And when all of astrologers kept saying, something's going to happen in the middle of March, it's really going to be. This country cannot function without a budget. If you didn't learn anything else in civics, you should have learned that. And the Democrats aren't going to bail them out. And the Republicans are fighting within themselves, and they will slash their own throats. I think it will. I think that's going to be when a lot of stuff's going to come to light. I don't know if that's when the 2 flashes of light are going to show up.
yeah. It's going to be interesting. It is the chaos. It's like chaos brings change, and just like the pandemic brought so many of us here,
Mm-hmm.
and we found groups and community
Mm-hmm.
across the world. You know, there's people all over the world here today: Australia, Europe, UK, um, Hawaii. Even though Hawaii is part of the United States, it always feels like it's a little different. I used to live there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like we all came together, and we're making it stronger and bigger and lighter. But all that stuff, that darkness is, it's going to blow up.
Well,
Um,
those big flashes of light are going to push a lot of this darkness out.
yeah,
Now, they may not get uh, they're just desserts in your eyes, but I wouldn't want to live 1 second in the energy that most of them live in. And I have been close to it. I have been. I had a dream one night. It was when they were going to vote for the woman they put on the Supreme Court, and I was standing in a hallway, and I was watching the senators go by, and I know who's which one, you know.
Mhm.
And Susan Collins walked by, and she was walking in, it was a dark hallway, and she's walking, and I could hear some noise beyond me in the dark hallway. And each one of them had a gold coin in their hand. They were being handed this gold coin, and that's why they were marching in this line. And I said, oh, I want to go see where they're going. And all of a sudden, Frank, for those of you who don't know, Frank is my guardian angel. That's less like a guardian angel and more like a linebacker. And he got in front of me and he said, you can't go down that hallway. And I said, Frank, I want to go down. You know how they tell you have free will? Now with my guides. I said, Frank, I really want to go down that hallway. And he said, Nancy, you had so many opportunities to go down the hallway to where they're going, and we stopped you because it's not your place. It's not where your soul belongs. And I said, okay. And then I could hear them going to a place, and then you'd hear a scream like someone was falling down a well. And I said, okay, Frank, I don't really want to go down there. That's one of my most vivid dreams of my entire life. And he said, it's time for us to go back. So I saw what they got them. They bought them. And which most of us could have figured out. I didn't need to have a big elaborate dream about that. But it is to their demise. So I think my spiritual view says it is. That's what I got.
You know, they talk about in the Vedas, and so many people that I've known, so many teachers have talked about for years, that the lightness and the darkness, and how we had to come to an equilibrium or better, right? And more people that were interconnected, whether they were meditating, shining their light, doing something to be present. And to be able to be in that space where they can witness and not be and of course, right when I'm saying this, I see chasing cats, and that's kind of like that thing, right, where you feel like you're always chasing something, like there's another thing, the monkeys. And
Thank you, Amy, for your donation. I don't think Teri saw it.
yeah, I did, and I messaged in there, thank you, Amy. And so it was like, so as we're chasing all these things around, we can't be present. And all these big things that are coming up, if we chase them all around, we can't be present too. And just to watch them, to send light, to do what you can, you know. And I've got family that's, you know, this is hurting right now. And we're working on it, but we're watching things while we work on it. So it's real easy to get really upset and go into that chaos mode and catastrophize and not know where you're headed. But there is a sure path.
I have a friend who called me up, and she was in a blue tail panic.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks ago. And she said, oh my God, yeah, no. And I said, oh, I didn't know any of that was going on. And I said, okay, what are you bent out of shape about? And I said, write them down. And this is what I call my Post-it note therapy. Write on a Post-it note what has your tail in a knot, and stick it up somewhere where in 3 or 4 days you're going to look at it again. Pull it down and see if it's still going on. And what you're going to find out is none of this is going on long term. When you run a political campaign, you cannot get tied up in the schadenfreude of the latest little story that came out. You have to be ready to figure out a way to respond, but you cannot. I learned that. And she's told me it's working. She has her 355 cards. And so whenever she gets upset, as soon as she writes it down, it's like it's out of her. It's somewhere else. Even though she said, yeah, I have flashbacks. And I said, well, I have flashbacks, but you know, what am I going to say? Yeah, I mean, like most sane humans, I'd like to take Elon Musk out and strangle a little bastard. But I think the universe is doing it for me when they start naming when they have people start putting things out like, don't buy a swastika. I mean, that will be forever for Tesla. Tesla's dead. It's going to be dead in 10 years. There will not be a Tesla company, even if he sells it. They're going to have to do such a name change. And maybe it's because I've just lived so much longer than a lot of the people in the chat that I know these things pass away. They go away. The problem was when Reagan happened, we didn't kill it. And that's when I worked in politics, was to kill all the Reagan shit. But the universe has told me that is not your job. Your job is to help each individual find their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. To see it all happen. Hey, Celtic Seer. Good to see you.
Yes. Can I talk about, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
I've got this start. Okay. Mary Thornberry says, Ann Tucker also says this light will come to everyone. Even if you are in a submarine or a bunker underground, it will penetrate the whole earth. Nothing escapes it. So it must be pretty big if this happens.
Well, it's going to have to, because, I'm allergic to the sun, so I can't go out in the sun very long. So if it hits, I'm going to know.
Well, Mary, I'm glad that you brought up the bunkers, because I do see that lots of billionaires have bunkers, and all of a sudden there's a change, like, billionaires are the new millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, but then we have so many houseless people on the planet, and people that are now looking at Social Security, and all this coming up at the same time, and Medicare and whatnot, all this coming up and taking away rights is showing us the duality. And to move into 5D, we have to move into non-duality, where we are all interconnected and we are all working together, and that there's a common ground and a common standard of living. And maybe some people have more, and that's okay. That's their samskara in this lifetime. But yeah.
It's like the story that broke, that was all over the news, about there's a West Virginia radio station that has a call-in thing. And this guy called in. He was 80 years old, and his neighbors are now running around all furious, saying, this isn't what we voted for. This is what they told us would happen. Well, first of all, if a politician's mouth is moving, and I don't care which party they're from, assume they're lying. So these people apparently missed that memo. But anyway, this guy, he was a diabetic, and his insulin was $8. He went to the CVS. His insulin is now $80 a month. And he said, I'm on an extremely fixed pension. And he said, this is not when is this going to change? And the Democrats, the second that we don't have a budget, and the bankers and the big business people say, create a budget or else, there will be Republicans that will go along with the budget that they write, and it will be written. How young am I? I will be 76 in May. It will happen. But Sharon Sipe has very kindly put my son's YouTube station in there several times.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon.
And the other shoe is about to fall, guys. I mean, really, I try to not. Bernie Sanders and White House are not lying. And I've actually met both of them. And I've sat and had a long conversation with Senator Whitehouse when he was running the first time, Lisa Field. And he is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. I don't think they're lying, but they're not telling you everything they know. And that's where people, why aren't they telling me what they're doing? Because they can't. I mean, it's just that simple. Okay, Nancy's about Mars goes direct. That's true. I'm so glad Mars is going direct. But we have an eclipse on the 13th or 14th, depending on where you live on the globe. Check it out. Look at it against your chart. If you don't know, find an astrologer that you can trust, or go to Astrocom or something and look up where it is on your chart. This is a big one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up. Rudolf Steiner talks about Arman. Arman?
You got me. I don't know what that is.
I don't either. Thank you. Barb says, my mother once said that the light thinks. At the time, we laughed at her, not understanding what that meant. That is the perfect T-shirt, Barb. The
Mhm.
light thinks. Yeah.
Yes. And if
Yeah.
you put yourself in the light, I don't have to think about things. Synchronicities just send them to me. And if you can get to that point, trust me, your life's a lot easier.
Yeah. So White Dragon says, Sheena, I've been feeling for a few days that the other shoe is about to fall off. Can you explain on that for a little bit?
Yeah, because it is. I mean, pressure builds up and then there comes a breaking point. And I was telling Teri that 3 years ago on 8/8 Lionsgate, which is a big day, that's when our galaxy heads straight into the center of the galaxy and we're all lined up and it's a fun time. It's actually a 2-week thing from one to the other, but the most direct day is 8/8 Lionsgate. It's a portal date too. Danny and I did a show and I cannot find it. And I'm so angry because it was about how both Danny and I had a dream at the same time that we saw humanity kind of walking along and everybody's talking and they're on this big trail. And then there was a split in the road and people had to choose which way they were going to go. And they, some went this way because their friends were there. Some went this way because they liked it better. But anyway, they split. And the further along it got, you could run. There was a period of time when you could run between the two. But eventually there's a giant, it's like a woods. It's like a medieval kind of evil woods that have all the bad things in it between the two lines. And you cannot cross. And so, and there was a lot of people on the side that I was walking on, which is where Danny was. We heard a lot of people weeping and wailing because they were losing people. The people weren't there. And anyway, we did a whole show on the split. And then we went to a year later, we did some 9 candles coming up to 8/8 Lionsgate because the paths had gotten so divergent. And we didn't see it, but the graphic I have for it's perfect. It's Danny riding in a spaceship. And you can see his little gray ponytail flying out the back, coming in from out, because it was when they were this big wave of energy, and it's still coming on us every day. But the scientists had finally created a tool to measure it. And Danny was riding the wave because, he lives in California. He knows how to do those things. But he was coming in from far in outer space, and we felt energy coming in from the sun. And there is the 2 flashes that everybody talks about. And I got a feeling one of them is going to be something that's going to come in from that. And, when I used to read about those things, they used to terrify me. They don't terrify me anymore because the more the universe sends us, this is the energy that is changing our DNA. So we can become more resilient, so we can live with it. And it'll hit the earth, and it's got some, I think it's got something to do with the 3 days of darkness that everybody keeps saying. I don't think it's 3 days of darkness. I've got lots of candles in my house. And I've lived with 3 days of darkness in Texas during the heat. Now, you want to talk about running wild. But that's what you're feeling, White Dragon. I feel it like on election night, when the energy that swept through the earth, it just didn't sweep through the earth. It knocked me down on the floor, had me speaking in tongues. My kids had to call the ambulance, the fire department. They came and checked me out. They considered me responsive, although I was talking. They goes, "Is she deaf? She's doing sign language," and I don't know sign language. I think my daughter said the closest thing she could understand I was speaking was angel speak, and she said, we'll if you can help us get mom to bed, we'll watch her all night. They should have taken me to the hospital. I've talked to a couple doctors since who said, oh my God, if you'd have died that night, your kids would own Dallas, Texas. But anyway, I didn't die, but I stood up and I felt like when you're too close to a base.
Yeah.
I felt that go through, and that's the last thing I remember till I woke up the next day, except for a fireman's face saying, "Can you respond to me?" And apparently I must have said the right thing. And that's when whatever ripped through me tore all my chakras up. It's a long story. And it took Dr. Gale and a bunch of healers, and my chakras are now all connected. And I'm being very, very careful about what I do with myself.
So, and I want to point out right now that a lot of us are going through the Kundalini awakenings again. So, and I used to go through them when I was younger, and they would like knock my socks off and burn my brain and my crown chakra. But now we're getting bits and pieces of it, and it's coming in a little softer. So I mean, what you did, it was like what I would call not just a Kundalini awakening, but a Diamond Sutra awakening, like diamond light. Like Moses and Jesus did this when they went into the desert, and
It
bam.
felt a lot like dying.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's an out of body experience when you're in your body, and it's like, and it's instant enlightenment. So not that you weren't already enlightened, but all of a sudden your body acclimated to the enlightenment. Would that make sense?
Yes. And the thing is, I have a shell that was apparently, according to one of my Akashic Records friends, the universe built around me because at the time, 3 years ago, I was going between 3D and 5D on a regular basis. And apparently, when you go up there, your chakras shift around, and my chakras were not getting back in time. So they put me in a shell so I could go up there, do what I needed to do. And guys, don't ask me what they wanted me to do because I don't remember. But and I had, when I watched the eclipse, apparently my shell developed a leak, and I had a reader call me, and she said, "Why do I see you standing in a box and your right foot has stuff oozing out of it?" And I said, "Oh shit, that means my shell's broken." So she went and she said, "Let me see if I can do anything." And she actually went to her home place that she works and meditates. And she said, "You should feel better in a couple of days." And I was literally leaking the energy of my body out, my foot. And she said, "What the hell is that that's around you?" I said, "It's like a cage." Anyway, I'm in a cage match for the rest of my life.
I like this question. Barb asks, is that like a tower moment download?
Yeah. But one of those really grisly ones where you're one of the people being flipped out of the top of the tower.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
you know what? The next card in the deck is the star. So you get thrown out of the tower and you're laying there on the cold, damp dawn light, and you look up and you see the star. And that just tells you got nothing to do but go on.
yeah. And sometimes I've got to mention that sometimes some of our houseless people that are wandering, I see so many angels there. You know, their faces are angelic, and they see the light. And when I've traveled too, in particular, like if you go to the east, if you go to Thailand or Kathmandu or Vietnam, you know, they're taken care of. People stop and buy them food and bring it to them, and they're out there meditating, a lot of them. Anyway, okay.
Oh no. Highlight Paul Freed's statement. It's the second from the bottom.
Okay, let me find it.
About writing a book.
Oh, yeah. When are you going to write that? Writing a novel on your life? It
Dr.
would be a
Gale.
hit.
Dr. Gale has been writing a book for 4 years. Jeffrey approached me and he said, "I need to put this into something. I have this feeling." And he just spit this out. The only way I'd write a book is if I could dictate it. And I was talking to Dr. Gale about how she can do that. But a couple things I got to do first, Paul. But it might help me, but I don't know. I don't think I need help.
Yeah. Well, other people it might help though.
That's true.
Yeah, other people it would help. It's hard to get that stuff out because there's always the next thing, isn't there?
Oh, well, everyone would, is there, I don't know if way to really fast forward uh, to through my first marriage, and you'd need that or have a barf bag. You got two choices.
You can use your phone to dictate your book. Celtic Seer says she
Yeah,
does.
I know. I keep finding that little microphone and saying, "Go away, go away." I think I'm being drawn there. I don't know. I don't know what's next. I can can I show them my grid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. And then I'm going to come back to you, Deanne.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Okay,
This
this
is
is what I
so
like to
beautiful.
do. I make grids, and this one is the grid for change. And change is where we go through a change in our life, and we connect to the frequencies. And as you can see, that's the middle stone is an ammonite, and on top of it is a quartz crystal. Then there's carnelian around that, little bitty ones. And then there's big carnelians. And if you go around the carnelian circle, there's an amazonite. That's the change. Then the next ring is red jasper. And the stone that's in that's the change, is a fluorite. Then the next ring of stones are the pyrrhusite. And the stone that's in there that's different is a volcanic peridot. And then on the outer edge of the stone of the ring is the cubic pyrite. And this lady is around my age, and she's going through a lot of changes in her life and is making some really positive moves for herself. I didn't know that when I did the reading with her. And she pulled a card out of a deck I have on sacred geometry. We just randomly pull it, and I'll do it. What stones? Those are red jasper. And they're not carrots, they're red jasper points. Good description of them, though. And and she gets a wand, and she gets to take her energy and match her energy with the stones with the wand. And then you can put intentions with it, you can just create it. You can just let it create what it wants for you. But I've made about 300 of these, and then in the last few months I've made maybe 4 or 5. And it took me 6 weeks to make hers because I knew the stones weren't right, and I knew I had that ammonite in the middle of my drawers somewhere, and it took a while to dig that out. I found the pyrite. She's a very special lady going through a very special change. Change is probably one of the most intriguing grids that I make, and I've made that form before. But if you're interested in a grid, go to my website. You can go to my website, and there's actually a catalog. You can't pick a grid to have you made. You have to do a reading, and I make the grid you need. I make the one you really need. And sometimes they're spot on. One time I made one for a priest, and the card he pulled was romantic love, which I thought was hysterical. And it ends up his love was to take care of homeless people, and he wanted to create a homeless place in the mountains between Los Angeles and Vegas, somewhere. He'd been trying for years.
Wow. How beautiful.
And he said within 6 weeks he had all the funding, and he'd been trying for years. He said all of a sudden it just flooded in. And he said, but where he blessed his grid, when he put it in to set it up for himself, he put it under the where the wine and bread were on Good Friday, which I thought, well, that's getting a super send off.
Yeah. Indigo says she can't see the grid, and she's on her phone. Indigo, if you turn your phone sideways, see if that'll make it, and shake it if you're on an iPhone. See if that'll make a difference.
Or go home and watch it on your computer, because I'm really proud of this grid, and I love it.
Stunning.
And it's winging its way to a lovely lady, and I mailed it to an address in Washington State, but I think that's to her son's house. I think she lives in Canada. How long does it take for me to make a grid? Depends on the grid, depends on the energy. And when I did 100 grids in 90 days. I was doing them 2 or 3 at a time because they have to, once you stick the stones down, they have to cure before you can ship them anywhere. And you get a picture of it. And I mean, before it gets sent to you, I've only had one person reject the grid. And that's because she picked a card that had a lot of brown color. She was needing to work into a grounding thing. And when she saw her grid, she said, everybody else's grids are all pink and pretty. And why does mine look like mud? And I was,
It's what she needed. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
well, it had bloodstone in it, which is not a muddy stone. If you take bloodstone out in the sun, it's green and red. A lot of stones do better. All these stones do well in artificial light. Some stones do so much better. When I sent Danny his, he had never taken it out in the sunlight, and he took it out and he went, holy crap. What is this? And so anyway, I do those, and those help keep me afloat, kids. And that's my commercial down for the time.
Yeah. crystaldirections.com.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, she is very artistic, isn't she?
It's actually not. It's amazing because I have about, we figured it out. I have about $5,000 worth of crystals sitting in drawers behind me. And I just start going through and it's like, okay, it's red in the picture, and there's different kinds of reds in all the stones. All the stones, when you get this, you get a complete listing of every stone that's on there and why it's there.
Deanne's asking, how long of a reading do people need to sign up for to get a grid?
You sign up, we meet, I explain the process to you, I lay out the cards, I show you how we randomly pick your card, then I discuss the card with you, we look at it, and then I make it. So I think I usually set aside about an hour just because I'm curious about y'all too, so I want to talk to you. But the whole reading part's maybe 10 minutes. And then the guides just send me, because like when I'm typing out my complete listing of what all these stones are and what they're for, I'm going, wow, I did great on that. I just pick, the universe guides me. And the other thing is I can't read cards on the same day I make grids. It's 2 different energy flows.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's fun. And I think I always consider it like a little power generator. I'll show you the one. This is the one that a British guy who does, we'd have to go to this, yeah. A British guy who does geomapping, and he works with earth energies. He said, you need to make a grid for the world. So I made this 2 years ago. And it's got fluorite, red jasper, goldstone, honey calcite, green moss agate, green aventurine, mother of pearl, blue lace, crystal points, and fluorites. And then it tells you what each of them is for. It tells you the numbers are also significant. They tell you a whole lot. But anyway, so I built this. And what I did is I thought, that's not pretentious. Let's build a grid for the world. So I mentioned it to a couple of other readers, and they said, we'll help you pull the cards. So they did. They came and pulled the cards. And then on New Year's, 2 years ago, Danny and Jeffrey and Dr. Gail and I got together, and we put this together. And no, it's not Rory Duff. It's a guy named Tim Walter. He's a friend of Rory Duff's. And so I made this for him, and I sent it. I showed him the picture. But the one that's in the middle is a fluorite that's been polished and then cut. And it's dark purple. And it was solid. It looked like a candy. It looked like a solid purple candy. I began to notice after the election last year, it's breaking up. It's actually cracking. The center stone on this is cracking. I've never had that happen. I've never heard anyone call me up and say, my thing's falling apart. So they said, watch it. And there's a little white dot that you can kind of see in that was not there. It's like somebody knocked it. So the world is changing. The center of the world is changing. So, and I am the keeper of this. I'm going to keep this until Danny will agree to creep into the UN and hang it on the wall. He won't agree to do that. I can't imagine why.
Can't imagine. Can't imagine. Indigo's on her TV now. Indigo, just for you, I'm going to show you.
That's beautiful. This is a grid call change.
Yeah. This I love the background of this with the colors that are on it and everything about it.
I used to pick different sacred geometry forms to build the first grids I did. Then I realized that my garden had every angle I can find in a sacred geometry form. So that's what I use. That's the map of my garden.
Wow.
So,
yeah. It looks beautiful. Yeah. Oh.
And so other than my giant advertisement for myself, I really want each of you to figure out a way to go inside yourself, however you do it. You know, I'm going to have a show. It won't, maybe Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. Watch for me. Subscribe to my channel so you won't miss it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I may send a thing on it to Teri so she can let you know when it's going to be. And we're going to talk about Jeffrey and his creation of this, how to work on your shadow work. And he actually calls it the attraction path, I think is what he calls it. But it's really powerful. And Jeffrey knows more about tarot cards. He only reads off Rider-Waite deck. He's never looked at another one. Doesn't do any other kind of cards. All he does is those. And he knows all about every symbol that's on there. And he went to he went to an Akiva Academy, so he spent half his day studying the Torah and half the day studying what you and I would have probably studied in school. And he also ran a company in New York that created T-shirts that put different sorts of metaphysical signs on it. And he spent hours and hours and days in the New York library learning all the symbols. So he finds symbols on those cards I've never heard of.
Wow.
So,
Celtic Seer says, ladies, do you get the chat after the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Barbara says it feels like womb energy. And Divergent Moon, hello. Maybe I can make one for my friend's hula school. She asked me to act as an elder. I'm praying for them, can offer what I've learned about history, culture. Now maybe this, how to start. Beautiful.
Anybody can make a grid. I just have a way to make it and I know it works. And I've had people call me and they said, I tried to do it. It just didn't seem to work the same way. There's nothing magic about what I did. I mean, there's all books on how to build grids. Grid building was a big deal in the early 2000s on YouTube. They had 9-year-olds building grids, which wasn't too much of a blow to my ego.
Yeah. She says, I have no knowledge of crystals or how to do a reading for it and no artistic sense of design.
I know people want me to teach a class on creating crystal or creating a grid, and I've done it. If you go back through my library, it's not sorted out. I'm sorry, I'm lazy. But there is some stuff about building a crystal. But I guess you'd have to know what you wanted to do, Divergent Moon. You could call me. You can set up through my website saying I'd like to speak with you. And we can make an arrangement for me to give you some guidance.
Yeah. It's and sometimes when you start on something like this, Divergent Moon, you remember. Like you just kind of know somehow.
And Divergent Moon, I never built a crystal grid before 2019. I never saw one till 2017. But when I saw them, I became obsessed with them. And so I did all the reading and stuff. And I was always kind of, I can't possibly build something like that. But I got some books. I read up on crystals. I made a matrix. I have a matrix of 1,000 crystals and what their uses are. what their vibration is. That's what I use to document the back of my.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And you can just
go ahead.
learn.
Sorry. Suzanne, I wanted to just point this out. She's had weird issues with technology over the past 3 days, television, phone, and laptop. Just saying. Suzanne, I swear the AI in my computer or something told my StreamYard to go on last week and told it to stop last week because I didn't hit any buttons. And if I looked at the directions on it, it said in stream and it was gone. It stopped, and it was just really confusing. So I think everybody's having technology.
What I get to do today is download all my books from Kindle.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I bought a drive and it's here, and it's a portable hard drive. Like this thing, and
Yeah.
I'm going to download all of them onto there because where do I buy my crystals from? The Rock Shop. It's about 2.5 miles from my house. They're wonderful people. Every town has a really good crystal shop. If you email me, I will go to them and ask them who's good in your area. They never sell me, like, this stone is a jasper, but it's dyed. I can't get that color blue. Mother Nature doesn't make it. Mother Nature doesn't make this color yellow either. So when I buy stones from them, they'll tell me if they're dyed or not. And I never get anything from there that isn't what they said it was. So,
Yeah.
but this is for downloading your books, guys. If you don't do it by the 26th, you can't.
Yeah. Leah's asking about peridot, help
Yeah.
with the heart and our relationships.
Peridot is one of the oldest gems in the universe. When meteorites come in and crash on Earth and they cut them into slices, they find peridot in there. But it also comes out of the volcanoes here. And it can help you. It can help you.
Yeah. And I just want to answer this too. Suzanne had a really good question. Can high vibrating guides affect technology?
I think when I'm attaching to their energy and it's around my sphere, I can affect the technology. I don't think my guides reach in and say, "Ha ha, F with her today."
Yeah. I agree. I feel like we can do it. I mean, there is no time or space. So, and I feel like I had said I'm going to end it, and it ended, and it didn't need anything. I wasn't conscious of it.
Well, talk to Jeffrey sometime. He was using the technology and he was a graphics. I mean, he was trained in art school.
Oh wow.
And he called me one day and he said, "Tell me to put the hammer down." And I said, "Why are you hammering?" And he was about to go after his computer because nothing was working. And I said, "Okay, take the rest of today off. Go find a friend. Go walk around Mexico City and have a good time." That's where he lives.
I love that.
And he called me the next day and he said, "It's done." He said, "I had to take that time away." So if something's not working for you, screw it. I mean, people say, "Well, you promised you'd have this done by this date." And I'm going, "No, I said I was trying to get it done by this date." That's different than a promise.
And I just want to point out, this book came into my life again. Can you read it?
Yes. Stillness Speaks.
Yeah. Eckhart. Great book. And it's teeny tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And he really wrote it so that you pick it up and put it back down. Like you don't have to read this thing through. You can read it for 5 minutes and it changes your vibration. Breath work can change your vibration. Going in nature. Being present is huge right now. And when we go into that presence, it's we become more aware of what's going on in our feelings and our bodies and the universe. So it grows. You could not see the title. It is Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle. And it's a good little book. And it's funny. I got this at half price, but I've had it before and I've got some of his bigger books, but this is the one that I've read the most. And it's the same with Deepak. He wrote all those little tiny books on, you know, 10 things of spirituality, 10 things of this, 10 things of that. And they weren't expensive. And Hay House put them out. Louisa Hay put them out because the big places, Random House and whatnot, did
They
not
want
want
so
to
many
publish them.
pages.
Too many, not enough pages. We're not going to make enough money. She made a fortune. Those have been the best books he ever put out. So, and she did Hay House with that. So, yeah. Oh, Liz, best of luck. She is at Cleveland Clinic today, getting all fixed up. So, yeah, lots of luck.
They're in a great place. When my mom was really sick, my dad went there. He was a retired physician, and he said when Cleveland Clinic couldn't help her, he knew that was sort of the end. You know, and also, guys, keep the Pope in your mind. Yeah. They're keeping him alive, and it's so cruel. My father used to call pneumonia the old man friend, and when we get pneumonia that badly, he used to fight at the hospital he worked at. It was a Catholic hospital to let people go, and he told me if I ever get to that point, if you have to crawl over the doctors to do it, pull the plug. And that's basically what happened. He got something and I knew he wanted to go. And I told my brother, pull the plug. But he's been a reasonably good Pope. I mean, he inherited a hell of a mess. You can send him healing energy. Send him energy to help his soul go on its way. He didn't want to be here.
Azrael. Yeah. Archangel Azrael, healing energy, definitely. So thank you, Sharon Thive. Thank you, everybody, all the moderators and Amy for your donation and everybody being here today. So, and we've got 111 in the chat right now. So
it's going to be 70 degrees today in Dallas.
Woohoo! We're going to be 65 in KC.
I know. I get to open the doors.
Right? Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Namaste. Our light sees your light.